Vasudeva Rao is an alumnus of the prestigious IIT Kanpur, Computer Science 1998, and is currently the president of the Bhaktivedanta Institute. He is one of the major contributors to Bhaktivedanta Institute's publications and also the editor of Bhaktivedanta Institute's reputed annual journal Savigyanam, Scientific Exploration for a Spiritual Paradigm. He travels widely across India and abroad, creating awareness regarding the interface of science and spirituality among academic and professional circles. His deep interest in the foundation of mathematics, the fundamentals of computer science and logic, and its relation to the nature of consciousness, nature of reality, as well as ancient Indian texts, has led him to meet and interact with renowned scholars at Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, and MIT. He has delivered numerous talks on computer science and spirituality. Under his able guidance and supervision, more than 10 national conferences, 2 international conferences, and over 100 seminars and workshops on science and spirituality have been organized by the Institute in the past decade, which includes contributions from more than 20 Nobel laureates and world-renowned scholars. In addition, over 200 papers have been published by the Bhaktivedanta Institute. He is also a Global Council trustee of the United Religion Initiative. So with this, I would like to invite Sri K. Vasudev Rao for his talk on distinguishing life, matter, and mind.
So I would like to stress the importance of distinguishing life, matter, and mind, because in our search for nature and origin of life, it is important to know what actually is life. Therefore, our search is in proper direction. There are some important publications by Bhaktivedanta Institute, and this book relates very close to my talk. Life, Matter, and Their Interactions is by Dr. Chidi Singh. These all books are available on the Bhaktivedanta Institute website, store.beans.org. I think some of these books are being displayed, but some more I'm going to show you, which are relevant to our, this you have already seen. This Life and Spiritual Evolution by Dr. T.D. Singh. And Life and Origin of the Universe, Consciousness, Scientific and Vedantic Perspectives. Vedanta and Embryology, Vedanta and the Science of Aging, Quantum Physics and Consciousness, 7 Nobel laureates on science and spirituality. We also have a magazine and also journal from our Bhaktivedanta Institute. So with that little introduction to the publications, we enter into our topic. So when we talk about distinguishing between matter, life, and mind, we're asking the question, what substance is life? What makes life? This is an important question we need to understand. Ontology has many things, but what we are focusing is that what substance constitutes life. Life is a mystery. Two things fill the mind with ever increasing wonder and awe. The more often and the more intensely the mind of thought is drawn to them. The starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. And it is said by Kant in 1788, and it is still the same. The situation is the same. Still they are mystery. Basically, there are two views of life. One is life is a product of matter. So it is a combination of some chemicals or some processes involving chemicals. But another view is life is fundamental. It is a fundamental entity, which means it cannot be reduced to anything else. either to a process or to a substance. It itself is a fundamental substance and process simultaneously. So these are the two important views on life. So first we look into the view that life is a product of matter. It includes material particles, waves, forces, fields, processes, or whatever, systems. The essence we can understand, the epitome of this, the final conclusion of these theories is that your joys, your sorrows, your memories, and your ambition, your sense of personal identity and free will are in fact no more than the behavior of vast assembly of nerve cells and their associated molecules. This is astonishing hypothesis given by Francis Crick. So this is the ambition and this is the motivation force and this is the worldview and this is the driving philosophy, how science is conducted nowadays. But there are many challenges to this view, many problems. First is the emerging field of consciousness. You see, easy and hard problems of consciousness. So the easy problem is we computationally and neurologically explain how certain function, conscious function is happening, like seeing the red. So we can see how the frequency is analyzed and computation, what computation is going on. And the hard problem is the experience of redness itself. What causes the experience of the redness? So uh, the stimulus input and response and its processing in the brain, computational, it is can be called as a functional consciousness. And the experience of the, for example, color red is the phenomenal consciousness. So these are, though we have some progress in functional consciousness, there are problems in that too, but phenomenal consciousness is very, very far from us, far from our reach. And then there is problem of morality. If we are, our behavior is attributed to just neural firing in the brain, then the moral question arises that who is actually responsible for actions? Whom can we punish? Should we isolate the neuron and punish the neuron or the person who committed it? So the problem of morality comes. So, and the meaning of morality also is in question. Also comes the problem of responsibility. It is both in this, from this astonishing hypothesis of neurons as well as in AI. In AI, we very happy to attribute artificial intelligence as same as being the real intelligence or artificial life, providing all the sensory input outputs. But when we send a robot to the space, we don't feel responsible to bring it back as much as we feel responsible to bring back a living person. So we feel responsible. Responsibility, how do we explain this responsibility? And there is the problem of probability, chance, that the how life originated first place on the earth is attributed to the many chance events, which we have heard from our speakers in the last few days, that the probability gets very, very high, as much as 1 in 10 power 40 billion. We also have learned that anything below 1 in 10 for 40 probability is impossible to happen. It is taken as it is not going to happen. It is not going to be a reality. Similarly, there is another thought which is expressed by Professor Charles Towns, is the totality of fundamental forces. We assume that whatever fundamental forces we know today are complete, but that is just an act of faith. There could be more fundamental forces which are yet to be discovered in the nature. It is quite possible. So therefore, we cannot be completely sure of life being fundamental, or life could be something beyond assembly of molecules. So this totality of fundamental forces, or we can say theory of everything, which explains everything. They are connected. So we are still not uh, close to the goal. So therefore, the Sankhya, Sankhya has some relation here, that we see in nature, if some phenomena or some aspect is not being explained by existing things, that predicts, that progresses by predicting, there must be some other element in the nature. So that's how the Sankhya means counting, it progresses. And then the problem of happiness, that though life has originated through chance, but by chance, not a single person is longing to be unhappy. Everyone wants to be happy. This is a big problem, or in the sense, this is a big mystery question. I mean, why everyone running after happiness? What gives us happiness may vary, but the fact is that we are all longing for happiness. Why it is so? Why happiness is so fundamental to us? Why we are not planning to be unhappy? Then there is this problem of survival, right? Death is natural, but none of us seem to like it. None of the living beings, for that matter, seem to like death. So why do we want to survive? So this is a problem. This is a unanswered. There are some answers, selfish gene or this and that, but they are not still satisfactory. So therefore, there is this problem of DNA, RNA, which you have also seen, that the DNA or RNA life could be beyond assembly of biomolecules. Then Dr. Singh has posed this question, that which force or molecule makes mother love her baby? This love is also so fundamental to all of us. The existence of all beings, it is common to all of us. But which molecule is responsible for mother loving her baby? If we find that molecule, we can give this medicine to all human beings on the planet, and all law and order problems will be solved, all conflicts will be resolved immediately. And there is a problem of faith, that we again and again denounce religion to be of faith, and but if you see in science also, there is an element of faith. Fundamental constants of the universe, we don't know how they came into existence, and what we tend to hypothesize is about the multiverse hypothesis, but we don't have an evidence, but we don't have any other explanation how the constants are fixed when the big bang has occurred. How is it possible that those constants have taken that exact those values so that life could emerge, our universe could exist? So Professor George F.R. Ellis is a very uh, well-known mathematical physicist. I do not see any serious difference in the faith you need to believe in a multiverse and the faith you need to believe in a God who creates it all. So this is the problem of faith. We try to avoid faith, but our human nature, our human ontology of human being, our ontology of life is that faith is fundamental to it. Simply because our capacity is limited in every respect, in our intellect, in our dependence, every way we are limited. So therefore, faith is natural. Similarly, in science, we are happy to have faith in the works of the predecessors, while we criticize the faith in the tradition. So on the shoulders of the giants, same in the faith, the science, in the tradition as well as in science. So we depend on the experiments conducted by others, right? Otherwise, we would be making very little progress. We cannot conduct all the experiments. While studying, we simply accept that somebody has conducted the experiment and it must be true, others have accepted it. It is the same thing that also happens in the spirituality, that somebody has experienced these spiritual truths, and there appears to be quite many of them. So, therefore, faith is indispensable, and this is also a problem. So, therefore, all these indicate that, or they compel us to look into the alternative possibility that life could be fundamental. Life is fundamental. It is a substance as a process. It is a fundamental thing. This we could very well see as a field of consciousness studies is emerging. This view of life is gaining a lot of momentum. That consciousness is a principle that fundamentally transcends not only physics and chemistry, but also the mechanistic principles of living beings. So consciousness is so fundamental that it transcends physics, chemistry, as well as mechanism, any mechanistic principle. So we should look into some fundamental, uh, some new force or new reality, consciousness as a fundamental force. Just like in physics, when we see there is a force, there's a new force, when we discover it, we predict associating particles, fundamental particles. Or sometimes we see some particle is missing, some force is missing to balance or to give complete picture. So similarly, if we study the life, we see that happiness is fundamental. We have just mentioned it. Even an ant wants to have lasting happiness. This is the most astonishing thing, amazing thing. Happiness is fundamental, consciousness is also fundamental. So therefore, there must be a fundamental particle that is responsible for this property. Just like when we find some fundamental new force, we predict there must be a fundamental particle responsible to it. Similarly, consciousness, which is more fundamental or completely a different reality, there must be a fundamental particle responsible for this consciousness. So it is called spiriton. This word is coined by Dr. T.D. Singh, but traditionally it is called Atma or soul. Soul is presented as a fundamental particle. If you see the traditional wisdom in India, Atma is presented as the most fundamental particle. Also, some deep thinkers like Professor Ruther Penrose, they indicate that the legal issue of responsibility seems to imply that there is indeed within each of us some kind of an independent self with its own responsibilities. That's why we feel responsible. So the traditional wisdom in India is that matter and spirit, they are. Hello, did you miss something?
Yes, sir. Matter and
Uh,
spirit.
yeah.
Okay, we are here. Okay, so uh, the traditional wisdom in India, they start with this foundational understanding that matter and spirit, they are fundamental. When we study the fundamental particles in physics, the nature of fundamental particle spirit is quite different from the fundamental particles we find in the physics. So reality itself has two quite different categories. Those one is matter, another is spirit. Matter is consisting of fundamentals of matter, and spirit consists of fundamental matters of spirit. Fundamental particles of spirit, they are called Atma or spirit. And the life which we see here, the what life we see here is we are talking about common descendant, And this life here is a species, is only a vehicle to carry the soul in this. So therefore, uh, the traditional wisdom, especially Bhagavad Gita, it says, Krishna says, I am seed giving father of all species. If you go to 14th chapter 4, Sarva yonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavantiya tasam brahma mahad yonir aham bija pada pitaha. Sarva yonishu, this word is very important. Sarva yonishu means all species, all different species. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed giving father. So this is the origin of the question whether seed is first or tree is first. So the seed is given by the uh, supreme Lord, God. And there are fundamental properties of the soul are also defined in the traditional wisdom in India, especially Vedic tradition. That soul is eternal, it has form, it is conscious, and it longs for happiness. This we call in Sanskrit Sat Chid Ananda Vigraha. The little bit order is different. Sat is eternity, Chit is conscious, Ananda is happiness, Vigraha means form. These are the fundamental properties of each particle of the spirit. So eternity. So generally we have a question that we assume that everything is created. That's why we ask the question, who created God? The underlying assumption is that everything is created. But in physics, we have understanding that energy is never created. You know the law of conservation of energy. And same applies to the spiritual energy, spiritual particle, that it is never created. Actually, there are more eternal entities. God is eternal, soul is eternal, and energy of the matter of which this world is created, this is also eternal. Time is also eternal. These are the four things that are mentioned as eternal. But there are temporary things. This universe is temporary. Karma is temporary. Our identity with a specific species is temporary. And associated mind, intelligence are also temporary. Material mind and intelligence. Similarly, universal time is also temporary. There are two times, absolute time and universal time. So universal time is temporary. Of course, it occupies certain slot in the absolute time, but universal time ceases to exist when the universe is dissolved, and again comes into existence when the universe comes into existence. And very interesting properties mentioned about the soul is that it cannot be cut or joined. It is mentioned in the second chapter of Gita that soul cannot be cut or cannot be joined, which means it is a most fundamental unit which cannot be further cut nor it cannot be added into anything. Joined in the sense it cannot be fused with another soul and made into one soul. So which means that in if you think about the energy states of an atom, if a photon, because of a photon, if electron goes from E1 to E2 and E2 to E3, then if the electron jumps from E2 to E1, then equivalent energy of both photons will be emitted. So in one sense, we can say this energy has been fused, but in case of soul, it is not possible. Of course, size of the soul is mentioned as 1/10,000 part of the tip of the hair, but it is mentioned Sankhya Titohi Chitkanaha, means it is beyond any numbers, it beyond any measurement. We cannot measure it. It cannot be measured, meaning that it is transcendental to our measurement, which means that think about the character in a game. If you ask, what is the size of the person who is playing a particular character in the game? For example, in this game, if you are a boy in the game, if somebody puts in the game question, what is the size of the person sitting on the chair and playing this game? It is not possible to measure inside the game because the person who is playing the game is transcendental, and none of the instruments inside the game have correspondence to the length of the person. According to the screen, it may change. There is no correspondence. There is no information that is passed from the real world to this this game simulated world. Similarly, the soul is transcendental. So therefore, we cannot measure the length of the soul because we are quite in a different reality. So Vedic biodiversity, there are 8,400,000 species. They are given, the list is given, 900,000 in the water, 2 million in trees and plants, 1.1 million insects, reptiles, 1 million birds, 3 million beasts, 400,000 human species. And one of the properties of the soul is consciousness. Within the consciousness, there are various things: awareness, knowledge, free will, responsibility, morality, emotions. These are all fundamental. So emotions, there are so many emotions, the different states of emotions, like being Santa, there is Karuna, Bhaya, Bhivatsa, Raudra, Adbhuta, Veera, Hasya. So there are so many fundamental. Similarly, awareness. We are aware of the taste of sugar. The taste of the sugar is awareness, and it is very personal to each one of us. Similarly, knowledge. We have fundamental knowledge. Soul has fundamental knowledge. Like what is one, what is two? We have fundamental knowledge. It is not a derived knowledge of what is one, what is two. Similarly, soul has free will. It is free to will whatever it likes to will, but it some of what everything that it wills may not be may not come into reality, but it has freedom to will. That free will is always there. Similarly, there is a responsibility because it has freedom. Wherever there is freedom, there will be responsibility. So, what is the connection between the soul and the species that we see? Does soul really need a species of life for it to exist? And what are the requirements for the soul to occupy a specific species of life? This is important uh, aspect to our school. So now that we have learned there are 8,400,000 species of life, and soul, which occupies or uses them as a vehicle, what are the requirements? Can I design a species and let a soul enter into it? So it is possible, provided if we provide the requirements of the soul. Just like a car, if anybody has to use, car has some certain requirements. If it is made, somebody can buy it. So if we facilitate the basic functions and or desires or the properties of the soul, then it is possible. So these properties are Satchit Ananda Vigraha, which we have described, which we have talked about. So eternity, consciousness, happiness, and form. So the form we already have. Species, every species has a form, and once the form is there, we need to incorporate consciousness, allow the soul to be conscious of the form, which means consciousness has two aspects. One is to be conscious of the self and to be conscious of the surroundings. So consciousness of the self means when a soul is occupying a species, it is having a new self or new identity. So there should be a provision for the soul to identify itself with the new species. For example, butterfly. If a soul wants to enter into the butterfly, there should be a mechanism to occupy the butterfly body in a way that it can think that it is a butterfly. So we'll talk a little bit more about it. That to facilitate the soul to think it is a new self or a new species. It forget itself, what it is, and be conscious of the new species. And there should be continuous consciousness of this new self or new species, because you are living a new life, another life. So therefore, there is a purpose why why a soul enters into a new species. That is to forget its past and live a new life. So therefore, there should be a provision for the soul to continuously remain in that consciousness. And then there should be an autonomous control and maintenance of the body, because soul also only wants to be a user of the species body. It doesn't want to be a maintainer of the body. It will do maintenance, but minimum, eating and doing some, taking bath, some minimum things, not big maintenance. So therefore, soul is only a user of the species body. So there should be autonomous control to maintain itself and to be conscious of the environment. So for this, it needs senses. It needs to sense the environment. It needs senses to sense the environment, which includes sense of touch, etc., and be able to interact with the environment. So therefore, we need working senses to be able to interact, move around, and work with the environment. And it needs to be happy. So for that, it needs sense objects and relationships with other beings. And then eternity, to think that it is going to live perpetually, or it is going to be there forever or for a long time. So form of the species which I already discussed, they are already existing in the nature, which is provided by the Lord. 8,400,000 according to our desire, according to our nature. This, we can occupy any species we like. So the second one is providing, facilitating the consciousness or identity of the soul. That is identity of new self. Means it should forget the old self, associate with the new form, and it should be able to control the form. So if I want to think I am a butterfly, there should be a way that I think I am butterfly and associate with that. So therefore, there is special mechanism called ahankar, or it is an element which mediates the soul's identity, or change the identity to a new species, think itself to a new species. And ability to control the form means it is not necessary, it is not only necessary to think that I am a butterfly, I should be also have a control when I want to fly. I should be able to fly. I should be able to flip the uh, wings. So this control also has to be provided. It also, that control itself gives certain aspect of identity, new identity. And similarly, ability to receive feedback and some purpose. So I'll go a little fast. And then there should be a way to continuously remain in that identity, right? Because my purpose is to forget the past and live a new life. So therefore, I need to be continuously in that identity. Otherwise, I will be again reminded of my past. And then my present life may not be a happy life. So therefore, this mind is there. Mind facilitates to be continuously in this new identity. And it constantly compels the soul to think in the new identity only. So by bringing the past and past activities, future activities. So this is a function, separate function unit outside soul for this purpose, so that the original identity is separated. So this both ahankar and mind, they are subtle elements, and also process associated with them, which facilitates these functions. And then we need autonomous control of the body. So for this, there is intellect and brain. Intellect is another subtle element, subtle material element, plus the brain. So brain is a computational resource that is used by all the three: mind, ahankar, mind, and intellect. They all use the brain. Brain is like a common computational resource for all these elements. And then to be conscious of the environment, we need 5 knowledge acquiring senses, or at least a subset of them. Because if you see the species, not all of them have all the senses or sense of touch. There should be at least 1 to 5, one of them, a subset of them where the being can be interact or be conscious of the environment through that. So it depends on various reasons, either because if one species is obsessed with one kind of sensation, maybe it will get that, or there could be some karma reasons or some desire reasons. Similarly, interaction with the environment, we need working senses for speech, hands, feet, excretion, reproduction, speech organ, mouth, that also provides for food, or a subset of them to interact the environment. And then we need to entertain the living entities. So for that, it has sense objects, it enjoys relationships, and it has goals in that new identity. And eternity is very, very surprising and mysterious thing. In Mahabharata, it is said that ahani ahani bhutani gacchanti yamalayam seshasthavaram ichanti kim acharyam atah param. Hundreds and thousands of living entities meet death at every moment, but a foolish living being nonetheless thinks himself deathless and does not prepare for death. This is the most wonderful thing in this world. So somehow or other, we tend to think that we are not going to die. That is our eternity, our intrinsic nature, where we try to mentally console ourselves or convince ourselves that death is not now. So this eternity is somehow mysteriously already provided. So life, what we see, the species which we call a life, is a combination of the spiriton, consciousness, and the subtle elements, ego, intelligence, and mind, and the gross body which we see. So the subtle body is like a kind of interface that glues the soul to the specific species. If we remove the species, gross body, it is still life. The spiriton and the subtle body together, it is still called life. Because the consciousness still exists, you can interact, and it is still life. If you remove the subtle body also, it is still life. Spirit on itself is life, because life is symptom of spiriton or soul, not the symptom of body. So even though these are required for us to experience a new species, enter into a new species, but they are not life, or they are not going to stop us to be alive. Soul always survives. It is still life. But if you remove the spiriton in this equation, then it is not life. Though the gross body is there, even the subtle covering is still left there. We don't have access to this ego, intelligence, mind still in our lab. They could be, if we do more research, we could find more fundamental particles in the realm of matter itself, because they are still material. Ego, intelligence, and mind. So if you remove soul, is not life. It cannot be called as a life. Even if you remove the subtle body of mind, intelligence, and ego, still gross body, that which consists of DNA, RNA, protein, cell membrane, still all of that cannot be life. It is not life. It will not be alive. The body species appears alive only because the presence of the soul. Even after having gross body, ego, intelligence, and mind, still until the soul joins it, it won't become life. Just like when you play a video game, everything is there on the screen, but until you come there and press the enter button or start button and take over a particular character, the game doesn't start. Game doesn't become alive. You won't become alive. So similarly, a species, until the consciousness joins the gross body or the associated processes or the subtle elements, including subtle body, it is not called as a life. So therefore, very nice teaching from tradition is that body never lives and soul never dies. So this is a corresponding sloka in Bhagavad Gita. You can read about it. So the idea is that body is never alive, but we think body is alive and we are studying the constraints of body as life. If you see the dream, uh, we work with a body that is created in the dream, right? We have in the dream, we have a body and tiger is chasing us. So means in the dream, we have given up our gross body association and we identify with a new body in the dream and fulfill our unfulfilled desires in the daytime. So this experience we have, how we change the body. And also in a video game, also we accept a new another body in the character in the video game is actually another covering on top of the gross body, because we use the gross body to interface with the character, like we use our hands or mouse in this way. So we have experience of this ego, intelligence, mind, how they act, how it is not something new that we accept a new body. We have experience in the dream, we have experience while playing the video game, we accept a new body. And it also indicates that in order to live a new life, we don't need DNA, we don't need the biological cell. Somehow or the other, if your form can be created, if you in and if I am given access to that form, it could be in the biology realm, in the domain of biology, it can be in the biology of like a video screen, which is just electromagnetic waves or radiation or photons. In whatever domain, if you create a form and give me access to that, I can live in that, I can live that life. So therefore it is a important realization that for life to exist, DNA, RNA are not necessary, but what is necessary is a form which can be supported either by DNA, RNA or by some other process. And the basic functions or requirements of the soul, consciousness, they are all given. The like senses of touch, vision, all if they are provided, there could be life form anywhere, which is not biology that we know today. So, okay, let me take a little time. So, just a minute, let me just take you through a video game and give little. So, because my time is running out, I will little bit rush. So, when we first start the game, this ahankar helps us to identify with the character of that game. And then the intelligence also helps us to make decisions. And the mind helps us to continuously focus on that. That also has a corresponding module in the game, which keeps us continuously busy, or there is always some emergency or something which we need to attend to. So our mind is there is a corresponding process in the game which ties our mind to that. So who is thinking? It is not the mind which is thinking, it's actually the soul which is thinking. Whether we are without a material body, gross body, whether we are in a video game body, the mind only helps us to think, or it can guide us through certain thinking, but the thinking is a property of the soul. But this mind is a covering on top of the soul to channel the thinking in a particular direction. Just like I have the capacity to see, but if somebody gives me spectacles of red glass, then my seeing has been restricted or constrained to a particular frequency. So similarly, this mind actually what it does is that it constrains our thinking to a uh, particular species and its environment. So What is the future? Some suggestions for future is that we continue our laboratory and simulative experiments, but we should also encourage fundamental research in finding these new particles that have relation to mind, uh, intelligence, which we call in Sanskrit buddhi, and ahankar, and also the consciousness itself. So from the tradition, we have information that these fundamental particles in these realms are there, which we still don't have access. Similarly, there will be new forces associated with them. And similarly, we should try to develop alternative biology in a quite different way, quite different biology than just the biology and biomolecules that we are looking for. When we look for a different biology, we are only looking for biomolecules that can survive in extreme conditions, similar to what we know. But it is quite possible that with the experiments and the example which I have given you, that life forms could exist in a quite different way, provided the life functions of life, the requirements of the consciousness are provided. We should also think about types of biomolecules and biochemistry we know today. Similarly, in our space search, we should look beyond oxygen and water. So when we search for water, for example, on Mars, what we are looking there is whether how much oxygen is there, whether water is there. So these are the signs we look for to see whether life is there or not. Also, we look for similar biology or biomolecules or the basic bacteria which we know. But what we should, apart from this, we should also look for not only this oxygen and water and the biomolecules which we know. If we have the information that life could be quite different, then we should look not only for these known factors that support life on the earth, we should also look for intelligent organization on particular planet or particular place. And if there is some, if it appears to be some specific purpose by seeing the surroundings of a particular planet. We should also look beyond gross matter, like subtle matter, more subtle, try to find more subtle elements by intellectually analyzing the existing particles and forces in the nature. And we should also go beyond visible spectrum of our senses. There could be there could be biomolecules beyond uh, the chemistry that we know that could support life, or forms that could exist beyond our spectrum. And similarly, we should support consciousness research more into consciousness, mind, intelligence, AI. So because the deep study will bring forth what are the limitations, and we will be knowing what is the missing. So therefore, consciousness research is very, very important. And we should also research into the traditional wisdom. And we may not need to take them very blindly, but it is quite possible that we may be over confident about our scientific method and the direction which we are going. There could be some clues which can help us to look elsewhere, or look in a different way, or in a for look something for different. Similarly, you can study alternative therapies, how they are working, and the models upon which those alternative therapies they are built, because they have a model of life on which these alternative therapies are built and they work. So to summarize, we need a new science as expressed by Sir Penrose. All thinking scientists agree that we all have consciousness and free will, but the present scientific knowledge cannot explain this. We need a new science. So Professor Penrose's idea of new science is we need more fundamental theories and new way of new things that we need, but it could be more fundamental, more in a quite different way. New science. Dr. T.D. Singh suggests that we should make spirituality a partner in the new science in a respectable and open way. uh, we should uh, we should not fully into the reason alone, or we should not resort to the faith alone. There should be a marriage between faith and reason. and that is the way forward to new science. That way we can understand what really life is and can relate to our own experience. At the present moment, there is no, we are unable to relate with the theory and our experience, inner experience. So therefore, when we bring together reason and faith together in a mature way, we have to bring them together in a mature way and in an open way. Then we will have true understanding of life and meaning and purpose of our life, so that we can make our life successful. Thank you for giving me time, little extra time, couple of minutes, few
Thank
minutes.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you
try
so
to
much.
rush. I don't know how much. I think probably it may take 1 hour presentation, but I hope
We
you get
have
some
some extra
ideas,
time.
though may not be
Yes.
fully.
Yes. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation, sir. So now I'd like to invite our participants with their questions. Please raise your hand, or you can also write in chat. Then I'll call out the names, and accordingly you can ask a question. But just to inform you, please keep your question to the point and short, so that we give chance to everyone to ask a question. Yes, Shomyadeep, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible?
Yes. Good afternoon.
Okay, sir, it's just a simple question that from the concept of ahankara, mind and intellect, uh, you said that, or it is proved that our soul actually lets us forget our past life and make us to keep living in our new body.
Yes.
So, sir, what happens for the people who can remember their past lives, or even what happens during the past life regression therapies? Can you explain it?
I don't know what happens in the past life regression, because I neither underwent the regression nor
Hmm.
I have done the therapy myself. But
Hmm.
past life memory, this one important aspect which I missed is that mind body problem, how mind or the soul interacts with the matter. That is a big area of research, or big area of unsolved problem. And traditional wisdom says that there is a super soul in between who mediates between the soul and these entities also, because we don't have direct control, right? Just like for a computer there is a mouse, right? Somebody has to arrange the mouse and give it to us. So for the interaction of the soul with these ahankar and mind and intellect, the super soul mediates between them. So if you see Gita, matta smritir gnanam apohanam cha. So the supreme being is always there in this equation, which I have not put here. So when somebody needs to remember past life, right? For example, we as a human beings, we are hearing about the soul transmigrating, then we'll think at least somebody should remember. So maybe God is giving some people to remember their past life, so that we have some evidence, those who are looking for it. Number one. Number two, if you see in the scripture, there are occasions where a person, after perfecting spiritual life, he got deviated and he had to take birth again. So he is given the memory of past life, so that he remembers that he
Yeah, yeah,
almost
yeah,
made
yeah.
it. So when there is a special necessity, the Supreme Lord allows to remember in special cases. But general rule is that everybody forget their previous life, because we took a new life to forget old life, to make a new beginning with new hopes and new goals and new aspirations.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Niket, you can unmute yourself and then ask your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, the mind is related to Bhagavad Gita. Like you have told in this, sir, we are not the body and mind.
I
And
think your
there is gap
network.
between soul and body. Then who? Yes, sir.
Niket, can you
Then
just turn off your
I
video?
want to ask that who controls?
Then it will be more clear, I guess, if you turn
Can you
off your
hear me
video.
now? Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, now you
Yes, sir.
can ask him.
Okay, fine. I will. Yes, sir. I'm asking that you meant to say that we are not body and mind, and there is a gap between soul and body. Then who controls soul? Since emotions are not controllable, and that differentiates human from other creatures also on this earth. Like even in Bhagavad Gita, like Shri Krishna used to remember Gopi in his unconscious mind, and he was very attached and emotional to them. That even in unconsciousness mind, he used to remember them when he got the throne in Mathura also. Means that then who is controlling the emotions? Since that
Yeah, I got your
there is a
question.
gap between soul and body, and controlling
Yes,
soul then.
emotions. First of all, emotions
Yes, sir.
belong to the
Lord
soul.
Krishna also.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you,
Yes,
Niket.
sir.
Uh, keep the question little short because long question uh, we lose the question. What is the question? So keep the question short. Answer could be long, little longer than the question. So, so the emotions belong to the soul. They don't belong to the mind. They don't belong to the ego. They don't belong to the intellect. They don't belong to the body. Emotions belong to the soul, and they're not controlled by anybody. You are responsible for your emotions. Soul is independent entity. God is not inducing any emotions within us. The emotions, depending on what we choose to interact and how we choose to interact with the environment and with the people, our emotions are consequences, or sometimes emotions are our own emotions are the motivation for our interaction. So the free will, we have the free will. So our emotions are completely up to us. They are in our, they are not induced by God. They are intrinsic to the soul, intrinsic to the soul. So it is a resultant of what we choose to interact and what we choose to interact. That is our free will. Emotions are our free will. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much for your answer. I have a few questions here in the chat. I'll ask on their behalf. Sanjay asks, do we have two souls in one body? This is a question from Sanjay.
Normally not. Normal conditions, it is not. Only one soul, one body. But you also should know what is the meaning of if there is more than one soul in the body, because the bacteria inside the body also have a soul. So here, the meaning of being in the body means, it is mentioned in the 13th chapter of Gita as Kshetragna. Who is the knower of the body? Means knower of the body means who is the knower of the pleasures and pains of this body. That is called being in the body. So that is the soul. There is also one more person who knows this, that is the super soul. These two are called Kshetragna of any body. So we are Kshetragna, or knower of a single body, but the Supreme Lord is knower of all the bodies. That is the difference between super soul and normal soul. But within this body, there are many other bodies that are living. There are microbes, there are many other things, but they are not aware of my body, nor I am aware of their body. So therefore, though physically they are inside my body, you can say soul is in my body, but functional wise, definition wise, Kshetragna is the definition of being in a body. That is mediated by the Lord. So that is normally one soul. But in some extraordinary situations, there will be possibility that there are two souls, but normally not.
Thank you so much. We have a question from Jagdishwar. Please, you can unmute yourself.
Sir, my question is, uh, why everyone has to suffer in this world? Can we make this world as heaven? I mean, very happy place.
So it is your choice to be here. It is not completely only suffering. There is mixture of both. There is a mixture of happiness and distress. But often because of our misuse of free will, more suffering than the happiness. So it is because of our desire to be independent, desire to be separate from the Lord, to live separately from the Lord. It is like a child, baby. If the baby is separated from the mother, there is a lot of suffering. So similarly, when the soul is separated in living with God, there will be a lot of suffering, because nothing will fully give us satisfaction here. And we also hurt each other in lack of proper consciousness. Just like when father is not there, children, they fight each other, right? So that is the more cause of suffering here than otherwise. Lord has given all necessities to be happy here. But ultimately we have to die, because that you may call it as a suffering, right? And that is definitely suffering. And that is because we develop new desires and new aspirations, which this body and this life will never be able to offer. So that is the fundamental nature of this nature. When the God is not present, you will never be satisfied with anything. Only in the beginning, everything looks nice here. So because our happiness here is mostly sensual, on the platform of sensual, but senses doesn't have capacity to give happiness all the day, throughout the day, right? For example, if you eat, you can only eat 10 minutes 3 times, but remaining time what soul should do? So the soul is always wants to be happy, not just 3 times a day. So therefore our platform of happiness is wrong. The platform of happiness is spiritual, or bhakti, or loving relation with God and other living beings. But somehow we have put ourselves on the platform of karma, or trying to satisfy the senses. But senses are only a means to express love, but we are settled with the happiness of the senses itself. So therefore spirituality raises our standard of living, standard of happiness, from the sensual happiness to add spiritual happiness, or happiness of higher nature, which is always increasing, and no stop is there, no interruption is there. So until we get to that stage, we will always be restless, and we have to change body, which means we have to die. So our journey will not be species 8,400,000 species journey is there. We have come to human life after all this. But if we are intelligent enough, like you are asking the very intelligent question, suffering is there, why I should suffer, then we look for alternatives. And there are so many traditions. Lord has given a lot of information about himself and his world. So our platform of happiness is the reason, is a sensual happiness is very minute, is not sufficient. It cannot sustain the requirements of the soul. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I have a question in chat from Akash. He asks, can we say that twins souls are connected?
Twin souls? Yeah, we can. Brothers are connected even if they are not twins, right? Don't you feel connected to your brother who is not a twin? We are connected. Twins may be more connected because their journey is longer than the normal. Definitely, there could be more connectedness, but exact details I do not know what they are.
Thank you. Shomadip, you can unmute yourself.
Sir, one little question then. Why human beings commit suicide then? If our purpose is to live a life and
Right.
collect some uh, experience through which we can enhance our journey or our soul, why commit suicide then?
Very good question. Because I have told you, happiness is the fundamental, very fundamental. We are always longing for happiness. So a person somehow convinced himself that he will be happy by dying. Right? So dying is also in pursuit of happiness, but which is wrong actually. Because a person who commits suicide, he will not be given a body for some time as a punishment. Just like if your father, he buys you a nice car and you do an accident, right? Willingly. So what your father does, he'll say you go by walk to college, right? So like that, if a person commits suicide, he will not be given a body. So he cannot eat, he cannot enjoy, he cannot do anything. There is no material happiness also. So if somebody commits suicide, there is punishment. In law also there is punishment, right? If somebody commits suicide, you are also punished by the court. So this so-called suicide is also because person thinks that he will be more happy by committing suicide, which is wrong. So the training is necessary to proper perspective about life and what is really important in life. We have created an culture or society where few resources are uh, the made the highest goal of life, and not everybody can get them. But if a holistic understanding of life is given, and if they are given higher goal, then their happiness lies in higher things like spirituality, and God is there. Everybody can get God. Like IAS officer in India, right? Everybody, there so many people try, but how many are there IAS posts? Very little. You want to become servant of prime minister, very limited number, or servants of chief minister or the minister. But servants of God, they are unlimited. Everybody can become unlimited. There is no competition. So if we give this higher goal, then there is no possibility of lower being depressed with the lower things. I give generally this example. If you are going in the bus, if you don't get a seat, you don't commit suicide, right? Because you have a higher goal in life, higher things in life. Similarly, there are more higher things in the life which we are taught or which we know as of now. So if we are educated about them, then we won't get upset with the petty things in the life and end our life.
Thank you so much. Anita, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, sir. I just want to know, some people, they talk to the souls, and what is that souls talking, and how do souls connected to the other soul?
Yeah, this talking to the souls, I think it is something related to the ghost, I have shown the picture in that if you remove the gross body, still it is life, right? You can still exist. Life is there. Like somebody committed suicide, they will be remain without gross body for some time. And they remain in subtle body for some time as a punishment. And in the scriptures, there are certain methods given to connect with them and befriend them. So you need to give them something. So they are called worshippers of ghosts and spirits. Bhagavad Gita says you can get in touch with them just like you can get in touch with God. You can get in touch with the demigods. Similarly, you can get in touch with the spirits. So for that, you have to worship them. And the danger is those who worship the spirits and ghosts, they take their birth in the next life as ghosts and spirits, because that is where your interest lies. So if you worship demigods, you take birth on the planets of demigods. If you worship God, you will attain the supreme destination. So therefore, what we indulge is very important, because that defines our nature and that defines our destination. So if our nature is godly, our destination is God. If our nature or interest is ghosts, our destination will be ghosts. So we should avoid these talking to these souls. They cannot actually talk. Anyway, when two people talk, they are actually who is talking? We are talking, souls are talking to each other. Body is only a means, right? Like right now I'm using the headset. Whom I'm talking to? Not to the headset, to you. You means who? You are using a headset, but you have a ear also. But there is somebody inside the soul. When we both of us are talking, actually the souls are communicating. So, but we always try for something which is beyond normal. Sometimes is good, sometimes is a little dangerous. So better to get in touch with the godly God than the ghosts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have one more question from Sanjay in the chat. He says, what is the difference between consciousness and soul?
Very good question. To give a simple answer, consciousness to soul is same as the electric charge to the electron. Negative charge to the electron. Right? Charge is part of the electron, but charge itself is not the whole electron. So consciousness is intrinsic property of the soul, but consciousness is not all that is soul. There is also physical substance which is soul. Like electron, it has a mass, right? Similarly, soul has a mass, not in this realm, but in spiritual realm. Soul is something plus consciousness. I mean, consciousness is like charge to the electron, consciousness to the soul. Just like fundamental particle forces, right? There are forces associated with the fundamental particles. Similarly, consciousness is the force you can kind of relate to the fundamental particle called soul.
Yes, thank you. Litish Reddy, the question from him is, what is the difference between consciousness, mind, and subconsciousness?
Mind, I have already explained you. Mind is like a spectacle, right? Soul already thinks. Property of soul is to think, but mind is a module attached to the soul in order to constrain it to the particular body or species we accept. So mind is a subtle material element which constrains the thinking of the soul to the species or to its particular body and its surrounding. So, and subconscious, consciousness, subconsciousness they are same. Subconscious means that I have told about the autonomic function, right? So sometimes because we don't really understand consciousness, sometimes we think subconsciously I have done this. But actually the body has its own autonomous function. Like if there is somebody is going to hit me, I'm immediately going to close my eyes or move away. It is some autonomy. You may call it as subconsciously I am doing it, but it is some autonomy built within the body to maintain this body.
Thank you.
Consciousness, either subconscious or consciousness, the real consciousness is of the soul. Right? Sometimes after reacting, you understand that you have reacted. It means who reacted? You have not reacted actually. It is the body which has autonomous function of the body which reacts. And we call that as subconscious. Yeah, sometimes we don't analyze ourselves what our feelings are. So that also we may think as subconscious. But conscious or subconscious, everything belongs to the soul. Consciousness means is a property of the soul and nothing else.
Thank you so much. We take question from Mr. Avinash. Can you please unmute yourself?
Namaskar, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So, like in your slide, you were showing that there were the number of species according to the Vedic scripture, no? 8,400,000. And the equation of the this life is gross body, subtle body, and life. So in this, when we see the gross body, there are this many species are counted. But in the subtle body, like you have where mind is there, but it acts in a different way, even within the same species. Like it's not like if it is we can call if it is a living entity in the dog's body. The dog's body is not that all dogs are acting in a similar way. We can find still there is a dissimilarity between the two dogs.
Right.
So this mind also, though it is a subtle body, this mind, but it also acts according to the desire of the soul.
Yes. Yes, because though the cars, they're all made by the same company, not everybody drives the same way, right? So, Avinash, are you there? We lost you, I think.
I think we lost him.
Yeah, one short announcement. After seeing the questions in the past, this one I thought of offering a quick course on Bhagavad Gita for 6 days, 1 hour each, and from July 5 to 10. Interested people, please contact school team. Thank you. Any other questions are there?
We'll take one last question maybe from Radhika Balagani ma'am. Please, you can unmute yourself.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste, madam.
The understanding that I have is the mind is a combination of the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious minds. And consciousness is in itself is separate from the mind. It is the life, the symptom of life. But the mind, I mean, in the previous question, like we were talking about the conscious mind is also part of consciousness. Was that it you were saying? I couldn't get it.
I also didn't understand your question.
Like,
so consciousness is not property of mind.
Yes, that's my understanding. The mind is like basically matter.
Yes.
According to the Vedic
Right.
philosophy, mind is considered as matter, and consciousness is the symptom of life.
Yes, but mind manipulates your consciousness, just like my spectacle manipulates my vision. Right? Already, this is manipulating my vision, right? Because of this body.
Okay.
And on top of that, I put this. Then again, it manipulates further. For the, if you see the horse, no, we'll put like this, right? So it is further, it is allowed to see only this much, right? So mind is to restrain, manipulate our thinking aspect of consciousness, our thinking. Thinking belongs to consciousness. This mind only actually restrains that thinking, so that we remain in this species, grounded in this species, right? Otherwise, tomorrow you may say, I am not your mother, or you may say, I'm not your friend, I'm something else. So there will be a big problem, right? So already we have so many problems, but mind also start giving problems, it will be a big problem. So at least, as long as we are not willing to transcend this material world, we want to enjoy this world,
we are always suffering.
Mind helps us to remain in this species, remain in these relations, to think that you are this, and also bring those memories, bring those ideas, to think in that direction only, right? If I am a friend of somebody, I will think like that friend only. Or if I think I am this particular person, Vasudeva, I am Indian, so right, it remains till I die. My mind is always that I am Indian. Is born. This identity, once the ego gives the identity, mind restrains our thinking to that identity. So the function of the mind is to restrain our thinking in our identity.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation, sir. It is very insightful, and we saw a lot of interaction. And also, like as you mentioned, this course would definitely help for those who want to understand more on this subject matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your patient listening and wonderful questions. It would have been more relaxed, but given our time, this is the best which we could do, and we hope we will do better in future our events.
Thank you so much.
Thank you once again. Thanks to all the organizing committee and the participants. Namaste.